In the world of hip-hop, no two names carry more weight than Jay-Z and Drake. One is the blueprint, the mogul who turned rap into a billion-dollar business. The other, a global phenomenon who redefined the sound of a generation. They've shared verses, thrown subtle shots, and moved entire industries. But behind the smiles and handshakes lies a story few dare to tell. A cold war of egos, power plays, and silent jabs. This is the hidden history of Jay-Z versus Drake, the rivalry that shaped modern rap. Jay-Z was already a legend when Drake was still Jimmy on Degrassi. Born in Brooklyn, Jay-Z hustled through the streets, dropping Reasonable Doubt in '96 and never looking back. Drake's rise came through vulnerability, heartbreak, melodies, and introspection. Two different formulas. But both men found a way to dominate. When Drake finally entered the rap game, he wasn't just aiming to succeed, he was aiming to dethrone the king. And Jay-Z knew it. From day one, it wasn't just admiration, it was competition. Drake's 2009 mixtape So Far Gone made waves. Jay-Z took notice. At the time, Jay was curating the Blueprint 3 and invited Drake for a feature on Off That. It looked like a passing of the torch. The elder statesman co-signing the new Prince. But fans noticed something strange. Jay barely promoted the song. Drake later admitted it didn't feel like a real moment. Even in their first link-up, there was tension. Was Jay-Z embracing Drake or keeping him close to keep him in check? Drake admired Kanye. Jay-Z and Kanye were brothers in business, or so it seemed. As Kanye grew close to Drake, things got complicated. Jay-Z started noticing how fast Drake was climbing and how Kanye was feeding him beats, style, and credibility. That triangle didn't sit right. Jay and Ye were already clashing, and Drake became an indirect pawn in their Cold War. It wasn't beef yet, but Jay was watching. And in hip-hop, sometimes a watch means wait your turn or I'll take it back. When Drake dropped Thank Me Later, Jay-Z featured on Light Up and gave him a legendary verse. But listen closely. Jay wasn't just mentoring, he was warning. Drake, here's how they gonna come at you, he rapped, sounding more like a king protecting his throne than a supportive peer. Drake called it wisdom. Others called it condescending. Was Jay-Z schooling the kid or telling him to stay in his lane? One thing was clear. Even when they were on the same track, the tension was real. Jay-Z has always played the long game. Never messy, always subtle. But over the years, fans picked up on bars that might have been aimed at Drake. Would have brought the Nets to Brooklyn for free, except I made millions off you fucking dweeb. Was it about Birdman or someone closer? Drake, for once, didn't respond. Jay's shots were too coded, too clean. But silence doesn't mean surrender. It means calculation. Both rappers were playing chess, and the board was starting to heat up. Behind the scenes, the competition grew louder. Drake's OVO Fest became a cultural event. Meanwhile, Jay-Z was building Roc Nation into a global empire. Both men started signing artists, launching brands, and making big business moves. Every time Drake partnered with Nike, Jay matched with Puma. If Drake took a rising artist under his wing, Jay would show up with a co-sign elsewhere. No diss tracks, no social media beef, just billion-dollar moves, and each one was louder than words. When Drake and Meek Mill went to war in 2015, Jay-Z stayed silent, but that silence was telling. Meek was signed to Roc Nation. Was Jay quietly backing Meek, giving him resources to go at Drake? Some insiders say yes, others say Jay simply let it play out. Either way, Drake emerged victorious, and it showed he could survive without help. That win changed everything. It made Drake a serious threat, not just musically, but politically too. Drake rarely disses directly, but Summer 16 was different. He rapped, "I used to want to be on Rockefeller, then I turned into Jay." That line hit hard. It wasn't admiration, it was domination. Drake was no longer playing under Jay-Z, he was aiming for his spot. Fans called it one of Drake's boldest moments. It shook the culture. For the first time, Drake wasn't just reacting. He was stepping up to the throne and daring Jay to respond. Jay-Z didn't respond in interviews. He responded on wax. In Shining, with Beyonce, he threw shade. "I know y'all ain't out here talking numbers, right? I know y'all ain't out here talking summers, right?" A not-so-subtle jab at Drake's dominance of summer charts. Jay never named names. He didn't have to. Everyone knew who he meant. It wasn't just a bar, it was a reminder. Jay-Z isn't stepping aside for anyone, not even the biggest artist in the world. Drake always admired Watch the Throne, the collaboration album between Jay-Z and Kanye. But he never got that chance. Jay and Kanye never invited him to that table. Whether it was ego or business, Drake was kept out of the elite circle, and it fueled his ambition. Instead of waiting for a seat, he built his own table with OVO. But the slight wasn't forgotten. Being locked out of that throne room made Drake more dangerous. He wasn't just coming for the game, he was coming for the crown. When Drake started building OVO into a full-fledged empire, Roc Nation quietly distanced themselves. Artists under Jay's wing stopped collaborating with Drake as often. Behind closed doors, some say Jay told people to watch how close you get to the sixth god. No beef, just a cold front. Drake didn't make it public, but you could feel the tension. A cold war of cosigns, deals, and exclusives. Everyone had to pick a side, and the ones who didn't, they faded fast. When Jay-Z appeared on Drake's Scorpion album with Talk Up, fans were shocked. It looked like a truce. But listen to Jay's verse. Y'all killed X and let Zimmerman live. Streets is done. No Drake praise, no friendly vibe. It was more like Jay pulled up, said what he had to say, and bounced. It felt like business, not brotherhood. A rare collaboration that raised more questions than it answered. Was it a peace offering or just strategy? By 2019, Jay-Z officially became hip-hop's first billionaire. Forbes, headlines, legacy, it was a huge moment. And though Drake congratulated him publicly, sources say he was more motivated than impressed. Drake had always wanted more than just chart toppers. He wanted mogul status. Jay had the blueprint, and Drake was using it, but faster, flashier, and more disruptive. The throne wasn't so far away anymore. Jay may have reached the top, but he wasn't alone on the summit. In 2021, Drake dropped Lemon Pepper Freestyle, rapping about legacy, influence, and power. He subtly positioned himself as not just a hitmaker, but a leader, a boss. No subs at Jay, but everyone knew who the comparison was with. The language was royal, schools named after him, artists raised under him. It was as if Drake was writing his own chapter in the book Jay started, and daring him to admit it. The student was ready to outshine the teacher. Jay-Z wasn't just chilling. After selling title stakes and launching partnerships with LVMH and Square, he reminded the world that business was his battlefield. These weren't influencer deals. These were power plays. While Drake was on Instagram with courtside seats and chains, Jay was signing contracts in art galleries with billionaires. The contrast was clear. One ruled the charts, the other ruled the boardrooms. Different lanes, but only one could lead. Drake has often boycotted the Grammys, but Jay-Z's speech at the 2024 show hit hard. Jay called out the Recording Academy for ignoring Beyoncé, but also reminded the world that respect isn't handed out, it's earned. While Jay's awards stacked up, Drake's defiance made headlines. Was Jay throwing subtle shots at artists who don't play the game? Fans thought so. The deeper message? You want legacy? Play chess, not checkers. Let's not forget, Beyoncé has never worked with Drake on a solo track. Despite years of dominance, Drake has remained outside her universe. Coincidence? Maybe. But fans speculate that Jay-Z's influence plays a role. Beyoncé is selective, and no one gets a green light without Jay's nod. Drake's absence in her discography isn't just noticeable, it's personal. In a world where every move matters, this silence speaks volumes. In late 2023, both Drake and Jay-Z were spotted in Las Vegas at a high-stakes event. No photos together, no interviews, just tension in the air. According to sources, a conversation happened behind closed doors about business, respect, and boundaries. Was it a peace talk? A warning? The industry buzzed. Whatever happened in that room, it didn't end the Cold War, but it confirmed something bigger. These two weren't done yet. Drake's been called the most streamed artist of all time, a generational icon. Jay-Z's been called the GOAT, the architect. But when lists drop and debates flare up, fans are forced to choose. Is success measured in sales or in strategy? In platinum plaques or billion-dollar deals? Both men built dynasties, but hip-hop only loves one king at a time. That invisible crown, it shifts quietly, and the game is still watching. Some say Drake is destined to surpass Jay-Z in influence. Others say Jay's position is unshakable. But in truth, it's not about titles, it's about eras. Jay-Z shaped one, Drake leads another. Their stories are intertwined. Power, admiration, ego, and silence. Whether friends, rivals, or reluctant peers, they represent two sides of the same dream. Hip-hop royalty. But only one will be remembered as the emperor of all time. And that answer? Still being written. When Watch the Throne dropped in 2011, it changed the rap game. Jay-Z and Kanye carved out a space for luxury rap and cultural dominance. And while Drake admired the project, he never got an invite, not even a feature. That album became a cultural checkpoint Drake couldn't pass. Not because of talent, but access. It was the ultimate "you can't sit with us" moment, and it stuck with Drake. Every empire he built after, it was in response to that door being closed. Jay-Z's influence in the industry runs deep. Several Rock Nation-affiliated artists and producers reportedly turned down working with Drake over the years. Not out of malice, out of loyalty. That quiet resistance hurt more than dices. It was power, used subtly. Jay never had to say Drake's name. All he had to do was remind people who made the rules. That's how you control the board. Not with shots, but with silence. Strategic silence. On Her Loss, Drake's lyrics stirred controversy, especially lines people interpreted as disses toward older rappers. He rapped like someone who'd taken over the industry and wasn't afraid to poke at its elders. Fans speculated, was that a jab at Jay-Z's age, his legacy, or his influence? Drake never confirmed, but his tone made it clear. He was no longer just trying to prove himself. He was rewriting the rules, with or without their permission. While Drake played social media chess, Jay-Z kept stacking moves that barely made the headlines, but changed the game. Cannabis, NFTs, fine art, liquor, sports agencies, quiet domination. Each venture wasn't just about money, it was a flex. You're building a brand, I built an institution. Jay wasn't rapping about legacy anymore, he was living it. And every time someone called Drake the GOAT, Jay simply smiled, knowing the long game always wins. In 2023, Drake performed a career-spanning set at the legendary Apollo Theater. It was a show meant to prove something. To hip-hop, to the legends, to himself. He paid homage to the roots, but also placed himself among them. The crowd was filled with industry elites. Jay wasn't there, but his absence said more than any verse. This wasn't just a performance, it was a throne application. When Beyoncé dropped Renaissance, it reshaped the sound of pop and R&B overnight. Drake had released Honestly, Nevermind months earlier, experimenting with similar dance-heavy vibes. Fans noticed the proximity, but Beyoncé didn't acknowledge Drake's work publicly. Not once. In the Carter world, silence is strategy. No cosign, no praise, no collab. Jay and Bey kept that door locked tight, and in the game of legacy, silence often speaks louder than bars. Drake has had a rocky relationship with hip-hop media, especially platforms aligned with East Coast culture, like Hot 97 and The Breakfast Club, Jay's old stomping grounds. At times, they've downplayed his dominance, questioned his authenticity. Drake saw it, and he never forgot. He built OVO Sound Radio, then Table for One, carving his own media lane. If the old gatekeepers wouldn't crown him, he'd make his own gate. When Jay-Z was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2021, he stood as a godfather figure of the culture. Barack Obama introduced him. Beyoncé stood proud. Legends bowed. It was legacy in its purest form. Drake was still too young to be inducted, but his fans compared numbers. Drake has more hits, they said, but Jay didn't care. Numbers fade, icons don't. Drake's It's All a Blur tour was more than a concert. It was a statement. He brought out new talent, reflected on his journey, and made clear he's not going anywhere. He mentioned fatherhood, aging, and owning his space. The message? I'm more than a hitmaker now. If Jay was the blueprint, Drake was the remix, and he was finally standing tall beside his idol, not in his shadow. The truth? There may never be an outright war between Jay-Z and Drake. No diss tracks, no headlines. Just strategic silence, competitive moves, and subtle one-ups. But behind the scenes, it's been chess, not checkers, for over a decade. Both men shifted hip-hop in different ways. One built the foundation, the other built a skyscraper on top of it. They might not shake hands, but together, they changed the game forever.